Hey everyone, I never thought I'd be one of those guys posting here, but here I am. My wife, Evelyn, and I have been married for 12 years. We used to be that couple people called perfect, the kind that made other couples roll their eyes. I'm an engineer, she's into botany. About 3 years ago, I built her this massive greenhouse behind our house, glass and steel, all custom-made. It was supposed to be her sanctuary, her dream. I poured months of work and a ridiculous amount of money into it because I thought it would make her happy. I thought we were happy. But somewhere between the orchids and the vines, something shifted. She started spending more and more time out there, hours at a time. At first, I loved it. She'd come inside with dirt on her cheek, smiling, saying things like, "You don't know how much peace this brings me." Then she started getting secretive. Locking the greenhouse when I came by. Saying she was reorganizing the plants and didn't want me to step on anything. Little things started piling up. She started dressing nicer, for gardening. She said it was because presentation matters, even if it's just plants. She began taking longer showers at odd hours. I told myself I was being paranoid, that she was just passionate about her hobby. But deep down, I felt something was off. I didn't know it yet, but the greenhouse I built to show her love was about to become the monument to how blind I'd been. It started small, so small I almost gaslit myself into ignoring it. Evelyn began spending late nights in the greenhouse, claiming she was experimenting with humidity levels or monitoring nocturnal pollination. It sounded scientific enough that I didn't question it at first. But then she started coming back smelling different. Not like soil or orchids, but like men's cologne, subtle, woodsy, unfamiliar. When I asked about it, she laughed it off. "Maybe it's the fertilizer," she said. "Or maybe you're just jealous of the plants getting more attention than you." She always had a way of turning my concerns into jokes, little jabs that made me feel stupid for even asking. Then came the phone habits. Evelyn, who used to leave her phone everywhere, on the counter, in the car, in the greenhouse, suddenly guarded it like it was nuclear launch codes. She started setting it face down, turning off notifications, even taking it into the bathroom. I caught her smiling at the screen a few times, and when I'd ask what was so funny, she'd say, "Just a meme," or, "You wouldn't get it, it's botany humor." One evening, she got a text while we were watching TV. She jumped like she'd been shocked. When I glanced at the screen, she angled it away from me so fast it was almost comical. I remember that look, wide-eyed panic trying to disguise itself as irritation. That's when I started paying attention. I began noticing muddy footprints on the patio that weren't mine. Extra coffee mugs on the greenhouse table. A man's jacket hanging on a hook behind the door. When I asked her about it, she rolled her eyes. "It's Mateo's," she said, "the gardener who helped with the orchids. Don't start. He's helping me rewire the irrigation system." I wanted to believe her. God, I needed to believe her. But something in her tone, too sharp, too defensive, told me the irrigation system wasn't what needed fixing. Alright, here's where everything really started unraveling. About a month after the jacket incident, I came home early from work, something I almost never did. Evelyn didn't expect me. The house was quiet, but I heard faint music coming from the greenhouse. I figured she was just tending to her plants again, so I headed out there to surprise her with coffee. But when I reached the door, I noticed something off immediately. The lock was open. Inside, I could see movement through the glass, blurred by condensation. Her laughter. Soft, hushed. Then another voice. A man's voice. I froze. My first instinct wasn't even anger, it was confusion. Maybe I misheard. Maybe she was FaceTiming someone. But then I saw them through the glass, the outline of her body pressed too close to his, her head tilted up toward him. Mateo. The gardener. I didn't burst in. I couldn't. My legs felt like lead. I just stood there watching through the fogged glass like some kind of ghost in my own life. When she turned, her shirt half unbuttoned, I finally moved. I opened the door, quietly, but enough to make them both jerk back. She gasped, eyes wide, face flushing red, not with guilt, but anger. "You shouldn't sneak up on people," she snapped. Like I was the intruder. Matteo mumbled something about leaving, grabbed his jacket, and practically sprinted out. I stood there, holding the coffee, my hands shaking so bad the mug nearly shattered. "What the hell was that, Evelyn?" I asked. She rolled her eyes, actually rolled her eyes. "It's not what you think," she said, pulling her shirt closed. "We were just checking for fungus on the orchids." "Right," I said, staring at her. "Because fungal inspections always involve making out with your gardener." She glared at me, jaw tight. "You're paranoid. You always have been. Maybe if you spent more time listening and less time building projects, we wouldn't be here." That one hit like a punch. I left before I said something I'd regret. But as I walked out, I noticed something on the floor, a single muddy footprint, fresh, large, definitely not mine. That's when I knew for sure, the greenhouse I built for love had become her hiding place for lies. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathing next to me, calm, steady, like she hadn't just detonated our marriage inside a glass cage. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them together. That smug little smirk she gave when she realized she'd been caught. The way she flipped the whole thing back on me. By morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I made breakfast just to have something to do with my hands. When she came into the kitchen, she acted like nothing had happened, wearing one of my shirts, humming, asking if we were out of coffee filters. I swear, she looked me in the eye and smiled. That fake, practiced smile that used to melt me. "Evelyn," I said, "we need to talk about yesterday." Her smile froze. "Oh God," she sighed, like I'd just told her we were out of milk. "You're still on that?" "Still on that?" I repeated. "You were kissing Matteo in the greenhouse." She rolled her eyes again. "You think you saw that? You barged in without knocking, and now you're twisting things. You've been so tense lately, maybe you should talk to someone about your trust issues." Trust issues. That's what she called it. Gaslighting with a capital G. I told her about the muddy footprint, the late nights, the secretive texts. She scoffed and said, "He's a gardener. He gets muddy. And the texts are about plants. Sorry if that's not sexy enough for you." Then she flipped it again. "You built that greenhouse for me, but it's always been your project, hasn't it? Your trophy. Maybe I needed someone who saw me as more than something to maintain." That one stung. Not because she was right, but because she said it so coldly, like she'd rehearsed it. The fight went in circles for hours. She denied everything, then cried, then accused me of not trusting her, then slammed the bedroom door. I sat there staring at the empty plate in front of me, feeling like the dumbest man alive. I'd built her a glass palace to keep her close, and all I'd really done was give her a stage for her performance. That night, I started locking the greenhouse myself. Not to protect the plants, but to see how far she'd go to get back in. For a week after that confrontation, things were icy. We barely spoke. When we did, it was short and snide, her saying I was overreacting, me pretending I didn't notice when she slipped her phone under a pillow every time I walked into the room. The air in the house felt heavy, like everything good between us was suffocating under unspoken words. Then one night, around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of the back door clicking shut. I looked over, Evelyn's side of the bed was empty. My first thought was the greenhouse. I got up, grabbed a flashlight, and went outside. Sure enough, the greenhouse light was on. And, of course, the lock I'd set myself earlier that evening was undone. I walked up quietly, heart pounding. Inside, Through the glass, I saw her, Evelyn, wearing her robe, whispering into her phone, pacing. "No, he's asleep. I told you I can't just leave yet, stop being dramatic, Matteo." That was it. I swung the door open so hard it rattled the hinges. She froze, phone still in hand. "Tell him I said hi," I said. My voice was steady, but I was shaking. She hung up fast, eyes wide. "It's not. Don't even start," I snapped. "You were just checking on the humidity, right?" She went from shocked to smug in half a second. "You're seriously spying on me now? Do you hear yourself? This is pathetic, Daniel." "Pathetic?" I laughed, more of a choke, really. "I caught you cheating twice in the same place I built for you, and I'm pathetic?" She just stared at me, cold as stone. "Maybe if you hadn't been so busy controlling everything, every screw, every panel in this stupid glass box, I wouldn't need someone else to listen." I don't even remember what I said next. I just remember walking out while she yelled after me, something about how I was ruining what was left. That night, I slept in my truck. The greenhouse glowed behind me like a wound that wouldn't close. When I woke up in the truck the next morning, my back ached and my mouth tasted like metal. The greenhouse was still there, framed in early sunlight, dew clinging to the glass. Inside, I could see her silhouette moving, calm, deliberate, as if nothing had happened. It was like watching a stranger living in a house I used to own. When I finally went inside, she was at the kitchen table eating breakfast. She didn't look surprised to see me, just tired, annoyed even. "Daniel," she said, without looking up from her toast. "We can't keep doing this." I wanted to laugh. Doing what? Pretending she hadn't been caught. Pretending we were still a couple worth saving. Instead, I just said, "You're right. We can't." That should have been the end of it. But she couldn't resist getting the last word in. She started in on a speech, how I'd changed, how I'd built walls made of glass, how Matteo listened in ways I didn't. I swear, she talked about that man like he was a therapist and not a hired hand who could barely string 2 sentences together in English. When I told her I wanted her to pack a bag and leave for a few days, she laughed. "You're kicking me out of my own house," she said, that bitter laugh bubbling up. "Go ahead, Daniel. Lock me out like you locked the greenhouse. See how long that makes you feel like a man." I didn't say another word. I just went to the garage, found a new padlock, and installed it myself. When I came back, she was on the phone, loudly, dramatically, telling someone, probably him, that I was losing it and acting abusive. That word, abusive, broke something in me. I had bent my life around her, built her dreams out of steel and glass, and now I was the villain in her story. That night, she didn't come home. No text, no call. I waited anyway. I told myself maybe she went to a friend's. But when I checked the greenhouse camera I'd secretly installed weeks ago, I saw her, Evelyn, coming back around midnight, unlocking it with my spare key. She disappeared inside for hours. And when she left, she wasn't alone. That night, the one where I saw her on the greenhouse camera, still replays in my head like a loop I can't pause. I sat in the dark, lit only by the glow of my phone, watching her slip through the door barefoot, her robe flowing behind her like some ghost haunting the place. A few minutes later, Matteo showed up. He had the nerve to pull into my driveway, park under my oak tree, and walk across my lawn like he owned it. I didn't storm out there. Not yet. I just watched. Listened. The camera had no sound, but I could read their movements. The way she touched his arm, laughed too loud, leaned in like she was drunk on something I hadn't been able to give her in years. Then they disappeared into the corner of the greenhouse where the orchids grew thick and tall, where I couldn't see them anymore. I don't know how long I sat there. Time felt syrup thick. The next thing I knew, the sun was rising. The footage ended, and I was still staring at my phone like it might start playing again. When Evelyn came back inside, she looked radiant. Hair messy, cheeks flushed, that same guilty glow she used to have when she'd sneak cookies as a kid. Except this wasn't cute. This was the kind of glow you get when you burn bridges and don't look back. "Where were you?" I asked, voice hoarse. She yawned, not even pretending. "Went for a walk. Couldn't sleep." I laughed. I couldn't help it, it just came out, harsh and broken. "A walk. In your robe. At 3 in the morning." She glared at me. "You're obsessed, Daniel. Do you even hear yourself? You're digging for problems that don't exist." I snapped. "I saw you, Evelyn. On the camera. You and him. Don't you dare tell me I imagined it." For a second, I thought she might finally break, apologize, cry, something. But she just folded her arms and sneered. "You installed cameras? Wow. Do you spy on me in the shower too?" And then, like the coward she'd become, she went on the offensive. "Maybe if you weren't so paranoid, I wouldn't have had to find comfort somewhere else. You think locking me out and watching me like a criminal makes you the good guy?" I just stood there, chest hollowed out, every word she threw bouncing around inside like shrapnel. She packed a bag that morning. Not in anger, methodically, like she'd planned it for weeks. I didn't stop her. She left the house humming under her breath. No goodbye, no look back. I went to the greenhouse after she left. Inside, the air was thick, humid, heavy with the smell of lavender and decay. The orchids, the ones she'd loved most, were all wilted. Their petals curled in on themselves, brown around the edges. On the table, next to a half-empty coffee mug, was the spare key she'd stolen from my ring. And under that key, folded neatly, was a note. "You can't keep sunlight in a cage." The first few days after she left were surreal. I'd wake up and still half expect to hear her humming in the kitchen, see her coffee mug on the counter, smell that ridiculous lavender lotion she used to slather on before bed. But every room felt hollow. It's strange how quickly a house turns from home to museum, every object becomes a relic of what used to be. The greenhouse, though, that was the worst. I couldn't go near it for weeks. I'd look out the window and see the sunlight hitting the glass, fractured into all those colors she used to say looked like love reborn. Now all I saw was a tomb. The orchids were long dead. The air inside had gone stale, like even the plants were mourning something they couldn't name. Friends started calling, mostly out of obligation. "Hey man, you okay? You'll get through this. She didn't deserve you." The kind of things people say when they don't know what else to say. My mother told me I should forgive her, that maybe Evelyn was just confused. Confused doesn't spend months sneaking around with another man, Mom. And the worst part? Evelyn didn't even seem sorry. I saw her once, maybe a month after she left, at the farmer's market downtown. She was with him. Mateo. Laughing, holding hands, buying fresh herbs like they were starring in some wholesome cooking commercial. She saw me. Her smile faltered for half a second, but then she turned her head and whispered something to him. He put his arm around her, and they walked away. Just like that. That night, I went back to the greenhouse. I don't even know why. Maybe I wanted closure. Maybe I wanted to destroy the place. I stood inside, surrounded by all that dead greenery, and realized that this was the only honest thing left between us, her absence. I stayed there until dawn. When the first light hit the glass, I noticed something I hadn't before. One orchid, just one, still alive. A tiny white bloom, growing out of cracked soil, bending toward the light. I don't know why, but I started crying. Not for her. Not even for what we lost. For me. For the man who thought he could build love out of steel and glass and keep it safe forever. I decided that morning I wasn't going to let her define the rest of my life. It took me months to even start rebuilding anything, emotionally, mentally, physically. The betrayal had dug in deep, like roots I couldn't rip out without bleeding. I tried ignoring it at first, burying myself in work, taking extra shifts, fixing things around the house that didn't need fixing. But silence has a way of amplifying pain, and every quiet night felt like she was still haunting the place. So I started therapy. Best decision I ever made. The first session, I sat there like a statue while the therapist, Dr. Reynolds, asked gentle questions that I wasn't ready to answer. But eventually, the words came, slowly at first, then all at once. The anger. The shame. The confusion. I kept asking her why. Why wasn't I enough? Why did she lie so easily? Why did she smile like nothing was wrong while she was tearing our life apart? Dr. Reynolds said something that stuck with me: you built her a greenhouse because you thought love could be protected, controlled, engineered. But love isn't structure, it's climate. You can nurture it, but you can't contain it. That hit hard. I started dismantling the greenhouse piece by piece that week. I couldn't stand seeing it anymore. It was like looking at a crime scene that no one had cleaned up. Each panel of glass I removed felt like shedding a layer of her, of us. Underneath all the decay, though, I found something unexpected: new growth. Wildflowers had started sprouting through the cracks in the soil, reclaiming the space we'd both abandoned. I decided not to destroy it completely. Instead, I rebuilt it smaller, simpler, a space for myself this time. No orchids, no humidity controls, no symbolic promises of forever. Just herbs, succulents, and one small orchid from the last living stem of the original ones. It bloomed again, faintly, almost shyly, like it wasn't sure it was allowed to. Around that time, I started reconnecting with people. Old friends. My sister. Even went on a few coffee dates, not serious, just human. I stopped looking for Evelyn in every smile. I stopped expecting betrayal in every silence. The night I finished the last repair on the new greenhouse, I stood inside, looking at the faint reflection of myself in the glass. For the first time in a long while, I didn't see a man broken by someone else's choices. I saw a man still standing. Still learning. Still growing. It's been 3 years since Evelyn left. Sometimes it still feels like yesterday, the night I watched her walk out with that same cold smirk, the sound of the greenhouse door clicking shut behind her. Other times, it feels like it happened to someone else entirely, like I'm just watching a story I once lived through but no longer belong to. People say time heals everything. That's not true. Time doesn't heal, it reveals. It strips away the illusions you clung to, the lies you told yourself to stay comfortable. It shows you what's left when everything false has burned away. What time does is give you distance, enough to see things for what they really were. Evelyn was never the person I thought she was. Maybe she never lied about everything, but she lied about enough. She lied with words, yes, but also with silences. With smiles that said, "I'm fine," when she was already gone. With thank yous that sounded like love but were really just debt being paid. I used to think her betrayal was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Now, I see it as the best thing that could have. Because it forced me to stop trying to build permanence out of people who were never meant to stay. The greenhouse still stands, smaller now, humbler. It's not a shrine to anyone but me. I spend my mornings there with a cup of coffee, letting the light fall through the glass like it's apologizing for everything it once revealed. The air smells like rosemary and mint. Sometimes lavender, when the wind's right. I found peace, not in forgiving her, but in forgiving myself. For not seeing it sooner. For thinking love meant control. For believing I could keep someone happy who didn't want to be kept. If you're reading this because you're where I was, because you've been lied to, betrayed, or made to feel small, here's my advice: don't beg for honesty from someone who thrives on deceit. Don't chase explanations from a liar, they'll only hand you new versions of the truth that fit their guilt better. Instead, turn that energy inward. Build something for yourself, even if it's small. A greenhouse, a habit, a life. Something that's yours alone. And when you look back, because you will, remember this: glass breaks, yes, but sunlight still gets through the cracks.